Hello friends, how are you all doing? Welcome back. My name is August. This is Cozy Rosy Reads, and today I'm doing my first ever mid-year freakout tag. I have been lurking on the sidelines of booktube for so long, and every time somebody would come out with a mid-year freakout tag or an end of the year kind of wrap up, I was that nerd who would write down the questions and like fill them out myself, but like never share it with the world. So I am beyond humbled and honored and excited, like legit ecstatic, to share these books with you all and to answer the mid-year freakout book tag 2021 edition. I read some super fantastic books so far this year, and what's amazing is that there's so many more to come. Like, that's just amazing. What will I get to by the end of this year? Who knows? And I'm really excited to share some of my new all-time faves, some books that disappointed me. There are 13 questions. I don't know who originally started this mid-year book tag, but thank you, kudos. If anyone knows, feel free to comment them down below. We're gonna go ahead and get started, but first I do want to say, if you are watching this video, I will actually be out of town for the next 3 or 4 days. So my weekly reading vlog is going to be super fun, but it's going to be delayed. Typically I like to upload videos on Tuesdays and Thursday afternoons, but because I'll be out of town, it's going to be a little delayed. But definitely stay tuned, subscribe if you want to see some like camping, reading out in the wilderness, exploring new places. So yeah, let's go ahead and dig into the questions. I have them all written out and I have all my books with me. Let's chat about some books. The first question, of course, is the best book you've read so far in 2021, and mine was an immediate answer, and that is Snow by Betsy Howie. Oh my gosh, I think this was one of the first books that I actually finished this year. It was the most surprising, amazing, beautiful book that I've read. I feel like I've gushed about it so many times on this channel. This was a book that I found sitting on the floor of one of my local bookstores that literally has like creaky old wood floors, books stacked on the floor, like leaning bookshelves, literally the most whimsical little bookshop you could possibly imagine. Like, imagine the bookshop of your dreams. That is that bookstore. And I just saw this on the ground. It was in the winter time. I was looking for something wintry, cozy. This blew me away. This absolutely blew me away. Favorite book of all time. It immediately, once I closed the book, I knew it was a favorite book of all time. This follows our unnamed protagonist as she recently is divorced, moves from New York City to go into this isolated cabin, and while she's there, she's just really grappling with some inner emotions, but they come out personified as animals that talk to her. There's a talking bear, there's talking cats. There are just so many beautiful symbols and metaphors in here for just self-love, self-discovery, believing in yourself, dealing with grief and really difficult emotions, but so poetically and beautifully. And I didn't get to share this the past few times that I've talked about this book. When I brought it up with my parents, I was talking to them about how this book has like changed me in so many ways. It just made me so incredibly happy. I told my dad who the author was, and he was like, I know her. He went to high school with her. This is not a popular book. There are hardly any ratings for it on Goodreads. I believe this came out in the 80s, and it was by far the best find that I've ever had. This is by far one of the best books that I've ever read. Like, I cannot wait to reread it already. I already have some tattoo ideas planned around some of the symbols and metaphors in this book. It hit me in a way, like emotionally to my core, that I haven't experienced in such a long time. So by far the best book that I've read in 2021 is Snow. And look at this little cat on the cover. Oh! The next question is, what is the best sequel that you've read so far in the year of 2021? And for this one, I actually had to dig through my Goodreads because I was like, I am not a series reader. I have read several books that are the start of series this year so far, but I was like, I don't think I've read a sequel. So I dug through my Goodreads and boom, bada bing, I actually found one, and that is Of Love and Evil by Anne Rice. I found this book while at a 25-cent library book sale. They were liquidizing a lot of their books, and it is large print, which I freaking love. And I was like, ooh, I immediately picked it up. I've been wanting to read an Anne Rice book for so long. Still have not read Interview with a Vampire. I really want to though. So when I saw this, I picked it up, and then when I looked it up on Goodreads, that's when I found out that this is actually a sequel. So I just went on to Libby and I downloaded the first book, which is an ebook. And the first book is called Angel Time, and this is a duology called The Songs of the Seraphim. This follows a young man who is an assassin. He is a trained hitman, and he encounters this angel, and the angel says that like your soul can be redeemed, you can still be a really good person even though you've basically killed people for a living, if you just come along with me into the past to kind of reconcile these situations that happened. In terms of, it's mainly about persecution of the Jewish faith by Christians. So he's like, if you just go in the past with me and solve some of these things and make things better, I'll basically redeem your soul. I thought these characters were so unique. I thought this plot was so unique. It does talk a lot about faith and religion, and I am not somebody who is religious at all. And I just found like such a love for this angel and these characters. I did feel like an overwhelming connection and wanting to keep them safe. I thought the adventures in here were so cool. This book in particular, I think the sequel is actually better than the first book. In this book, our main character travels back to 15th century Rome. There's a murder mystery, there's botany, like poisonous plants, there's like just talks of what religion really is, and it's this feeling of protection and love and kind of unconditional love. And Anne Rice just did a really beautiful job of illustrating that love and making you really feel it. Just had such a great time. This is the first time I've ever really like actually finished a series other than Harry Potter, so this was my favorite sequel. Next question is, what is a new release that you haven't read yet but really want to? And for that, I'm going to say none. And I'm gonna have a little Carly Thorne moment. And if you don't know who Carly is from UnCarly, you should definitely check her out. She's an amazing booktuber. But I'm gonna pull a moment here and just say, I'm not like every other girl. I'm different. Like, I don't buy new releases, okay? That was so cringe. She does it so much better than I do. Oh no. Yeah, I honestly don't buy new releases. I don't keep up with new releases unless I hear about it through booktube, but I rarely add them to my Goodreads. I rarely think like, oh, that's something I want to read. That's just not something that I'm super interested in. So instead, I'm gonna change the question to, what is a book on my shelves that I just really want to read by the end of this year? And I have one. I might be a masochist for this, but it's A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I genuinely do really want to read this year, specifically this year in 2021. We'll see if the cards are stacked in my favor. I am just really curious to see how this book will impact me. I've heard so many people get really incredibly emotional. It's, you know, not a book that people actually recommend. It's a book that people are like, yo, there's like every trigger warning under the sun for this book. It will make you cry. It will make you think about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And crying while reading is something that I haven't fully experienced. I've definitely welled up, but I haven't really felt like a sincere connection with characters where like if something catastrophic happens to them, I don't feel like I'm bawling my eyes out. I am just really genuinely curious to see what the plot is, if I enjoy this writing style, if I enjoy reading a book this big. What's something that you'll probably see in most of these books that I'm going to be talking about today, they're very short. They're usually really short books, and I realize like I just genuinely love shorter books. I connect with them more, I enjoy them more. I am genuinely interested in reading this and seeing what I think of it. So this is a book that I would really still like to read by the end of this year. And if that happens, wish me luck. Question number 4 is in the same vein. It reads, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And again, I don't have any. I don't keep up with what's being released. I fully support new authors coming out with new books. That's amazing. I support you. That is incredible. But I don't keep up with that. I don't quite care in the sense of like, I need my hands on that book as soon as it comes out. That just doesn't happen. So I think in this one, I'll just quickly talk about the places I want to go so I can explore and find new used books or thrifted books or just, I don't know, something else. One of my amazing subscribers let me know that there is a place in my area called Ollie's. I don't know if they sell used books or brand new books, but they're usually like under $3. I have lived in this town for mass majority of my life and haven't yet heard of this shop. So I really want to do like a little vlog where I go check it out or something. So huge thank you to that subscriber for letting me know about this place, because otherwise I would just never have heard of it. Another place I really want to check out is there is actually like a really big kind of like warehouse that's filled with antiques and thrift stores all within this giant downtown historical warehouse in my city that I have never freaking been to. I really need to go there. Or as Liz Lemon says in 30 Rock, I want to go to there. I would love to explore new places this second half of this year, maybe this summertime or in the fall. I would love to thrift some more books, check out new places while thrifting, go out of my normal kind of comfort zone where I check out books, which is usually like Goodwill or Dollar Tree, that kind of stuff. So that is just my plan for like finding new books. And what I love about that is that there is no intention whatsoever. I just go there, and usually I would say 8 out of 10 of those times that I go and check out a new place, I usually find a book that I have never heard of, and I just like really get excited about the book and I just want to read it immediately. So that is my plan. I love finding like little underrated hidden gem books in places like that. Like, just take hours to scour through shelves. It is a process and I thoroughly enjoy it. It makes my mood, it makes my day, it makes my week. Oh, it's the best. Question number 5 is biggest disappointment. I have talked about this one a few times, so if you are a frequent flyer of this channel, you might know it. This is by far not the worst book that I've read in 2021. Not at all. Not the worst at all. But this was the biggest disappointment because I did have higher expectations going into it, and that is Howl's Moving Castle by Dianna Wynne Jones. Ooh, I was so sad. I was so sad about this one. For years, I have heard that this is people's like comfort book. This is their favorite book. This is a book that they return to, and it just brings them whimsy and magic and happy, gushy, good feelings. And I didn't get that at all. I was honestly like questioning the plot. I was questioning the motive. I didn't really like the writing style. I found it pretty boring. I just wanted to get done with it. I felt no connection whatsoever to it, and it just really disappointed me. So I think I'm gonna end that there. I've talked about this plenty. I did have a dedicated reading vlog because I got this for my birthday from my wonderful partner, along with its sequel, which I do still plan on reading, and I hope that it will give me some answers that I feel like this book was lacking in. So I will link that reading vlog down below if you all are so curious. But yeah, biggest disappointment. Next is a fun question, which is biggest surprise. Oh, my jaw just popped. Did you hear that? I feel like this question could have been taken in a number of ways, but for me, I just took it as a book that I wasn't really anticipating to fall in love with as much as I did. And for me, that was definitely Mangoes, Bananas, and Coconuts by Himilce and Oates. I freaking loved this book. I've talked about it so many times, and I will reiterate every time I mention this book. I don't recommend this book. I'm not recommending it to anybody because there are trigger warnings out the yazoo. There are so many like seriously messed up things in this book, like unforgivable messed up things in this book. We have like incest, cannibalism, pedophilia. It's super fucked, okay? But I will say that I freaking loved this book. It took me by surprise. I found it while thrifting at Goodwill. It's a tiny little book. It was just hiding in there. It was one of the last things I found, and I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. Randomly picked it up. It does say on the front it is a Cuban love story. It's not a romance. This is not a love story. It is satire. It is feminist satire. It is super messed up. It is beautiful. I loved the writing style. This was just such a curious little hidden gem that not a lot of people have read, and it has horrible reviews on Goodreads. And I understand why, because the content is like atrocious. But I freaking loved this book. It took me by surprise. I wasn't anticipating reading it. It was just a little find, and I picked it up right away because I was so curious about it. And I really loved it, and I want to get my hands on more by Himilce and Oates. I don't know if she's written anything else, but like, my god, I really love this book. This was by far the biggest surprise. And especially too because I originally read this and then I rated it as 4 stars, and the more I thought about it, the more I was like, this is a 5-star book for sure. Next is favorite new author, and this is hands down frickin' C.P. Patrick, who is the author of The Truth About Awiti. This is a book that I found at a thrift store for 50 cents. It blew my freaking socks off, okay? Like, what the hell? Like, this book is incredible. I know that so many of you reached out to me to say that you bought your own copy and were equally blown away, and that this needs to be hyped even more. So thank you for trusting me and my recommendation that this book is freaking amazing, and I will continue to recommend it for literally everybody. There are content warnings and trigger warnings because this does follow history of slavery and racism, but it is a fantasy historical novel that follows this young woman named Awiti as she is captured by slave traders and slave owners, and she is made immortal, and she makes it her mission to free as many slaves as she possibly can over centuries. Not only that, but she also plans to do really horrific killings of slave owners and plantation owners, and even the descendants of slave owners and plantation owners. But what's interesting about this book is that each single chapter is from a completely different perspective, from a different part of the world, from a different era. All that threads through it and keeps everything in common is that every single one of these perspectives we're reading from meets Awiti at some point. Either she's their enemy or their friend, or she's trying to help them in some way. Just absolutely so powerful. C.P. Patrick's writing style is impeccable. I don't know how she was able to get into like the minds of this many characters. Like some of these chapters are only like 4 pages long. Some of them are a little bit longer, but each one has its own unique dialect and writing style. You are just so immersed in who that character and person is that you're reading from. The amount of like historical accuracy and real life people in here mixed with the actual fictionalization of truly just characters that she's made up in her mind. Freaking talented, freaking amazing. I want to read more by her. I finally tracked down her real name because this is a pen name, C.P. Patrick. I think she goes by Christina Patrick. I'm gonna have to double check that, and I'll write it down below if I messed up. She actually has written a series of really, really popular children's books that focus on accessible versions of nonfiction illustrated books about people of color in power and their stories, which is absolutely amazing. Like, this author just has it going on. She is a huge role model for me. I follow her on Instagram now, which I'll link down below as well. Like, I just want to read more books like this though, where she's written more like novel styles. I'm just so excited. I believe under this pen name, she also wrote a series of essays regarding the African diaspora. So I just really, really love her writing style, and the content is incredible. And again, the writing is just so beautiful and so masterful. Question number 8 is newest fictional crush. And for that question, I'm definitely gonna say none, because that's just something that I don't have fictional crushes on characters. Maybe that will change one day, but for right now, like, that question kind of like made me a little uncomfy, because I was like, oh. So I'm gonna change that question to my favorite relationship in a book, and that is hands down the relationship in the book Spinning Tropics by Aska Mochizuki. This follows a female-female relationship between 2 characters named Hiro and Yoon, and oh my god, it is so sweet. It is so heartwarming and heartbreaking. Don't want to spoil anything, but like, it is just complicated. It's difficult. It is both their first time being in a female-female relationship. They just have like this sweetness, this tenderness where they spend every day together. It feels like they're just kind of like made for each other as soulmates, as friends. They meet and then just immediately spend every day together. They're just connected in this other kind of way where they kind of question the relationship, where they're like, why is this happening to us? Why do we feel this way towards each other? But they never really like fight it, really. It's just more of like is this normal? Is this okay? And this book takes place in the early 2000s in Vietnam. Yoon is Vietnamese and Hiro is Japanese. First off, I read this book this month, the very beginning of June, so I'll be talking about it a lot more in my June wrap-up. But this was a 5-star read for me. This was freaking incredible. I absolutely loved it. This was such a surprise book, one that I had never heard of and just found at my local indie bookstore in the used section. I'm just so freaking over the moon about it. I freaking loved this book. How many times can I say the word freaking? I loved their relationship so much. It was devastating. It was complex. It was beautiful. It was realistic. It was tender, and it was just so unique. I just loved it. So I ship them with all my heart, really. Question number 9 is new favorite character, and mine was definitely Beneatha in A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry. So this is a play, and this was actually my first time reading a play as a book format other than Shakespeare, you know, back in high school. I loved this play. I thought about it so much more after I read it. I still have not seen the movie adaptation, but I do plan to this year. I loved this. Beneatha's character, oh my god, I wanted her to be my friend. Like, she's like the cool older sister. So this book takes place in the 1950s in Chicago and follows a black family, and she kind of starts getting into feminism before feminism really has a word. She also just starts to learn more about her African culture, and through that she decides to stop relaxing her hair and let it grow naturally, and her whole family is like, what are you doing? And she's like, you all are just assimilators. Like, she's really trying to embrace her culture culture and teach her family. Their heritage and where they come from in Africa is just full of history and traditions, and it's just so amazing to see her do it because she is a young college student. She has these dreams of becoming a doctor, like she's super educated, and she just like continues to push her own knowledge, which I found just so inspiring and so amazing in a character, especially in the 1950s. Like, she was just like way ahead of her time. She was like the cool older sister. She was that cool friend that you just really, really want to have, that you just like watch all the time and you're like, I emulate you. Beneatha was just so freaking rad. I really loved her character, and I highly recommend this play. Super short, super amazing. Highly, highly recommend. Question number 10 is a book that made you cry. And I know at the beginning of this video I did say that I really haven't had books that have made me like sob my eyes out or feel super connected, but this book in particular definitely made me tear up and well up and get like a little sniffly, and that is Creatures by Crissy Van Meter. This was a highly anticipated read for me, and it definitely did not disappoint. The relationship between our main character Evie and her father freaking broke me. It broke me at the end of this book. It was so emotional, so sad, so beautifully written. Oh my god. This follows Evie, who is a young girl who lives on an island off the coast of California that is known for its really popular strain of weed, and her mother left her at a really young age, so she just kind of grew up with her father, and her father was a weed dealer, but most of the time he was just homeless. So she just kind of had this really difficult relationship with him where she like really loved him, but he was like physically unable to provide for her really. There definitely are trigger warnings in here for addiction. So their relationship is already complex and dynamic, but like by the end of this book, like it literally broke me and it made me so sad. This author's writing style just made it so poetic and beautiful. There are a lot of passages in here where the tense will change to second tense. You just feel like you're in kind of like Evie's body as she's living on this beautiful magical island dealing with these dynamic, difficult emotions and relationships. Oh, it was just so well done, and it really broke me. This was just such a gorgeous piece of literary fiction. Yeah, this one definitely made me tear up. Question number 11 is a book that made you happy, and for me, that was, of course, The Anybodies by Anybody. I mean, how can it not? I've talked about this one so many times, so I will be very brief, but like this was a childhood reread for me. I haven't read it since I was in like 5th or 6th grade. It stood the test of time. It was so much fun. I could not stop smiling while I was reading it. It was absolutely perfect. I think it should be considered classic children's literature. I think more people need to read this. Young people, older people, I don't care, like just read it. It's so good. There is a quirky narrator who talks directly to us. There's so much magical realism in here. There's superpowers, there's a female heroine, there's found family relationships, there's connections, there's love, there's fantastical creatures, magic, like literally everything that's just made my heart beyond happy. Beyond happy. I'm so geeked that I got to read it again. Like this was just such a treat. It was like eating just a huge ice cream sundae for me. Like every single page was just like delightful and whimsical and so much fun. It just made my heart so happy. This one definitely made me happy. Question number 12 is the most beautiful book that you've bought or received so far this year, and mine is definitely The Assignation by Joyce Carol Oates. Oh my gosh, I've talked about this in my book haul video. I found this while thrifting. I love this cover more than anything, more than any other cover. I love shiny new covers that are like really gorgeously modernly designed and illustrated, but there's something about this cover in particular, how worn it is. I love the painting on it. I love the different colors. Like this color scheme is like so great. And if I could just like emulate a book cover or like absorb a book cover's personality, it would definitely be this one. It is just beyond stunning. I haven't read it yet, but I really want to this year. That is a goal for sure. Which leads us perfectly into the last question of this mid-year freakout tag, which is what books do you need to read before the end of the year? I did do a video at the very beginning of this year when I first started my little baby channel, and it was 21 books that I need to read in 2021. That was actually chosen by a random generator. So I do have several books left over on that. I'm not even sure what books. I never really wrote down what books they were. So I probably have a lot. Will I get to them all? Probably not. But in terms of like what I really want to read that I'm genuinely looking forward to, I have several, and they are Watership Down by Richard Adams. My dad loaned me one of his copies of Watership Down a few years ago, I believe, or pretty recently, and it intimidated me a lot. But then I went and found my own copy while thrifting, and I was like, oh, this cover makes it a lot better, it's a lot bigger, it's a lot thicker, and since then I just like look at this book all the time and I'm like, I can't wait to read you. I've never read this book. I know it's like considered a classic, and I know it's like heartbreaking and beautiful, and like I just really want to read this. I have some other books that like I feel like have been on my want to read list for a really long time that I just actually recently picked up, and that is definitely like Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, and The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. These are kind of considered, I feel like, more classic literature, but I am genuinely excited to read them at some point, and I would really love to get to them this year. So we'll see, again, if things go in my favor, because now I've started using a TBR jar. So hopefully I can land on some of these books that would fit that prompt, because that would just be freaking amazing. But one of my biggest goals that I need to read by the end of this year, that I really want to, and I need to like really push myself so I can get to the point where I'm able to do this, is reading an entire book in Spanish. This is a book that I found. I have been learning Spanish for a few months now after, you know, leaving high school many years ago and studying Spanish then. I've really fallen back in love with learning a new language, and I made it a goal that I want to read a whole book in Spanish. I'm not sure if this is considered YA, but there are illustrations in it which are really cute. The font is pretty large, which is nice. It's a really tiny book, and it is called El Gato de Humo y Otros Felinos Extraordinarios by Luis Bernardo Perez. So I really would like to read this by the end of this year. Even if that means I study and I literally can read this like at the very end of December, that will still make me super happy. So those are the books that I would really like to read by the end of this year. So there we have it, my friends. That is my first ever mid-year freak out book tag. Thank you so incredibly much for being here, for staying tuned. I would love to hear what some of your answers to these questions are. If you're anything like me when I was lurking on booktube, feel free to answer them down below in the comments if you want to share, but you don't want to make your own video. Like, please feel free to do that. I want to read your answers and hear about all the books that you've loved so far this year. Thank you so much. It's been an amazing reading year so far, like freaking incredible. And I can't wait to tell you all about the other wonderful books that I'll be reading later this year. I will see you all very soon in my next video. Stay cozy, my friends. Bye!